Well, this is a new one, guys. I've had plenty of people online randomly just DM me on Instagram and Discord. Hey, can I see your feet? Can I buy your shoes? Can I buy your used, undergarments? Can I, see your ass? Can I see your lack thereof breasts? This is a new one. Recently, I literally just opened Discord today, and I got a DM request, and it was an AI-generated picture of me just standing there, and the caption was like, pictures of you with your beautiful, silky, succulent arms. So there truly is something for everything. So in order to conserve water, this one's for you, random Discord DM person. Here are my salacious arms, and get this, a jacket tied around my waist. Yo! Alright. I should have gotten money from that person. I really should have, but I was just too afraid to continue to interact with them. So, yeah. Alright. Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina, Part 2, Chapter 31. It was a dull day. It rained the whole morning, and the patients with their umbrellas crowded the covered gallery. Kitty was walking with her mother and the Moscow colonel, who swaggered gaily in his short German coat, brought ready-made in Frankfurt. They kept to one side of the gallery, trying to avoid Levin, who was walking on the other side. Varenka, in her dark dress and a black hat with turned-down rim, was pacing the whole length of the gallery with a blind Frenchwoman, and each time she met Kitty, they exchanged a friendly look. "Mama, may I speak to her?" asked Kitty, following her unknown friend with her eyes and noticing she was moving toward the well, and that they could meet her there. "Well, if you want so much, I will inquire about her first, and will speak to her myself," answered her mother. "What do you see in particular in her? I expect she's a companion. If you like, I will make Madame Stahl's acquaintance. I knew her sister-in-law," added the princess, raising her head proudly. Kitty knew that her mother was offended that Madame Stahl seemed to avoid making her acquaintance. Kitty did not insist. "She is wonderfully sweet," she said, looking at Varenka, who was handing a tumbler to the Frenchwoman. "See how naturally and sweetly she does it." "How absurd your infatuations are," said the princess. "Come, we better turn back." The mom does not support Yuri, but I support Yuri, honestly. She added as she noticed Levin coming toward them with his lady and a German doctor, to whom he was talking loudly and angrily. They were just turning to go back when they suddenly heard voices not merely loud but shouting. Levin had stopped and was shouting, and the doctor was also excited. A crowd collected about them. The princess and Kitty withdrew hurriedly, but the colonel joined the crowd to find out what the noise was all about. In a few minutes he overtook Kitty and her mother. "What was the matter?" asked the princess. "It's shameful and scandalous," replied the colonel. "The one thing to fear is meeting Russians abroad. That tall gentleman has been quarreling with the doctor and insulting him because he is dissatisfied with the doctor's treatment. He shook his stick at him. It's simply shameful." "Oh, how unpleasant," said the princess. "But how did it all end?" "Luckily that, you know the girl with a hat like a mushroom? She's Russian, I think intervened," said the colonel. "Mademoiselle Varenka?" asked Kitty in a pleased tone. Yes, she knew what to do before anyone else. She took that fellow by the arm and led him away." "There, Mama," said Kitty. "And you were surprised that I admire her." The next day, watching her unknown friend, Kitty noticed that she was already on the same footing with Levin and his young woman as she was with her other protégés. She went up to them, talked to them, and acted as an interpreter for the woman, who spoke nothing but Russian. Kitty begged her mother more than ever to allow her to make Varenka's acquaintance, and, much as the princess disliked appearing to take the first step toward getting acquainted with Madame Stahl, who allowed herself to be proud of something or other, she made inquiries about Varenka, and having learnt particulars which allowed her to conclude that there might be little good there, would be no harm in this acquaintance, but she herself approached Varenka. Choosing a moment when her daughter had gone to the well and Varenka had stopped in front of a baker's shop, the princess went up to her. "Allow me to introduce myself," said the princess with her dignified smile. "My daughter has fallen in love with you. Perhaps you don't know me, It's more than mutual, princess." This is actually Yuri! Period! This is actually Yuri, and I'm actually all for it. What a good action you performed yesterday for our unfortunate fellow countryman, said the princess. Varenka blushed. I don't remember. I don't think I did anything, she said. Oh, yes, you saved that Levin from unpleasantness. Well, you see, his companion called me and I tried to soothe him. He is very ill and was dissatisfied with his doctor. I am used to looking after invalids of that kind. Oh, yes, I heard that you live in Mentoine with your aunt. I think Madame Stahl. I knew her sister-in-law. No, she is not my aunt. I call her Mama, but I'm not related to her. She adopted me, answered Varenka, and blushed again. This was said so simply, and the frank and open expression of her face was so amiable that Princess understood what made Kitty so fond of this Varenka. Well, and what about that Levin? He is leaving, answered Varenka. Just then Kitty, beaming with joy that her mother had made acquaintance with her unknown friend, returned from the well. There, Kitty, your great wish to make acquaintance with Mademoiselle. Varenka, prompted Varenka with a smile. Everybody calls me so. Kitty blushed with joy, long and silently pressing her new friend's hand, which lay passively in hers. I'm blushing, guys. But though her hand did not return the pressure, Mademoiselle's face shone with a soft and pleased, though rather sad smile, which disclosed her large but splendid teeth. I have long wished it myself, she said. Oh, but you are so busy. Oh, on the contrary, I have no occupation at all, answered Varenka. But at the very moment she had to leave her new friends because two little Russian girls, the children of one of the invalids, ran up to her. Varenka, Mama wants you! They shouted, and Varenka went with them. This is high-quality Yuri. I'm telling you guys, that's actually high-quality Yuri. Okay. Anna Karenina, Part 2, Chapter 32. The particulars of the Princess Shtcherbatskaya learnt about Varenka's past and about her relations with Madame Stahl and about Madame Stahl herself were the following. Madame Stahl, of whom some people said that she had tormented her husband to death. Me! Honestly, me, Core. I cannot wait to be, filled up with No, I can't say that. That's, But, I see my future. It's actually quite dim. Well, not really. My future with a man is quite dim. My future with non-binary or a woman, bright, beautiful, amazing. But my future with a man, dim but also kind of iconic. I'm going to be one of those insane women. I'm going to be an outrageous woman if I marry a man. If I marry a woman or non-binary person, I'll be wonderful. But if I marry a man, I'll be outrageous. I just know it. Okay, anyway. While others said by his immoral conduct he had tormented her, had always been a sickly and ecstatic woman. When her first baby was born, she already divorced from her husband. It died at once. Damn! And her relations, knowing how susceptible she was, and fearing that this news might kill her, changed her dead child for one who had been born that night in the same house in Petersburg, the daughter of a chef at a palace. That child was Varenka. Madame Stahl learnt afterwards that Varenka was not her daughter, but continued to bring her up. The more readily it happened that very soon Varenka had no relations left. Madame Stahl had lived continuously abroad in the south for more than 10 years, hardly ever leaving her bed. Me! Some people said that she had made for herself a position in society by her pose as a philanthropic and highly religious woman. Others said that she was really the highly moral being, living only to do good, that she seemed to be. No one knew what her religion was, Roman Catholic, Protestant, or Greek Orthodox, but one thing was certain, namely that she was in friendly relations with the most highly placed personages of all the churches and denominations. Varenka always lived with her abroad, and all who knew Madame Stahl knew and liked Mademoiselle Varenka, as everyone called her. Having learnt all these particulars, the princess saw nothing to object to in a friendship between her daughter and Varenka, especially as Varenka's manners and education were excellent. She spoke French and English admirably, and above all, she brought Madame Stahl's regrets at having been deprived through illness of the pleasure of making the princess's acquaintance. When she had made Varenka's acquaintance, Kitty became more and more fascinated by her friend and found new virtues in her every day. The princess, having heard that Varenka sang very well, invited her to come to sing to them one evening. Kitty plays, and we have a piano, though not a good one, and you would give us great pleasure, said the princess with her feigned smile, which was especially unpleasant to Kitty now because she noticed that Varenka did not wish to sing. Varenka, however, came in the evening and brought her music. The princess had also invited Mary Evgenyevna with her daughter and the colonel. Varenka did not seem at all abashed by the fact that strangers were present, and she went up straight to the piano. She could not accompany herself, but she sang at sight admirably. Kitty, who played well, accompanied her. You have exceptional talent, said the princess, after Varenka had sung her first song excellently. Mary Evgenevia and her daughter thanked her and praised her singing. "See," said the colonel, looking out of the window, "what an audience has assembled to hear you!" Underneath the window, a considerable crowd really had collected. "I am very glad it gives you pleasure," said Varenka simply. Kitty looked at her friend with pride. She was enraptured by her singing, her voice, her face, and above all, by her manner. By the fact that Varenka evidently attached no importance to her own singing and was quite indifferent to the praise she got, she only seemed to ask, "Have I to sing it again, or is it enough?"
"If it were I," thought Kitty, "how proud I should feel, how glad I should be to see that crowd under the windows. But she is quite indifferent. She only wished not to refuse and to give Mamma pleasure. What is it in her? What gives her this power to disregard everything and to be so quietly independent? How I should like to know this and to learn it from her,"
thought Kitty, gazing into the calm face. The princess asked Varenka to sing again, and she sang another song just as truly, clearly, and well, standing straight at the piano, and beating time on it with her thin brown hand. The next piece in the music book was an Italian song. Kitty played the prelude and looked round at Varenka. "Let us skip this one," said Varenka, blushing. Kitty anxiously and inquiringly fixed her eyes on Varenka's face.
"Well then, another one,"
she said, hurriedly turning over the pages, immediately realizing that there was something particular connected with that song. "No," answered Varenka, putting her hand on the music and smiling. "No, let us sing that one." And she sang the piece just as calmly, coldly, and as well as the previous ones. When she had finished, everybody again thanked her and went to drink tea, but Kitty and Varenka went out into the little garden belonging to the house.
"Am I not right? Do you have some memory attached to that song?"
asked Kitty.
"Don't tell me about it," she added hurriedly. "Only say if I am right."
"Why not? I will tell you," said Varenka simply, and without waiting for a second, continued. "Yes, there is a memory attached to it, and it was a painful one. I loved a man and used to sing that song to him." Kitty, deeply moved, gazed silently with wide-open eyes at Varenka. "I loved him, and he loved me, but his mother would not have it, and he married another. He lives not far from us now, and I see him sometimes. You do not think that I too had a romance?" she said, and on her handsome face there flickered for an instant a spark of fire which Kitty felt had once lightened up her whole being.
"I not think it? Why, if I were a man, I could not have loved anyone else after knowing you. But I can't understand now. To satisfy his mother, he could forget you and make you unhappy. He must be quite heartless."
This is actually crazy Yuri. I'm not even capping, guys. "Oh no, he's a very good man, and I am not unhappy. On the contrary, I am very happy. Well, we shan't sing any more today," she added, and went toward the house.
"How good are you? How good!"
exclaimed Kitty, stopping her and kissing her. Yuri! That's my boost, that's my ego boost, only for a minute.
If only I could be a little bit like you.
Why should you be like anyone? You're very good as you are, said Varenka, smiling her gentle, wary smile.
No, I am not at all good, but tell me, wait a bit, let us sit down again,
said Kitty, making Varenka sit down on a garden seat beside her.
Tell me, is it possible that you were not offended at the thought that a man despised your love, that he did not wish?
But he did not despise it. I believe that he loved me, but he was an obedient son.
Yes, but it had not been his mother's doing, but his own,
said Kitty, feeling that she had given away her secret and that her face, burning with a blush of shame, had already betrayed her. Then he would have behaved badly, and I should not regret him, replied Varenka, evidently conscious that they were now speaking not about her, but about Kitty.
But the humiliation,
said Kitty.
One cannot forget the humiliation. One cannot.
And she remembered the look she gave Vronsky at the ball when the music stopped. Where is the humiliation? You do not do anything wrong.
Worse than wrong. Shameful.
Varenka shook her head and put her hand on Kitty's. Shameful in what respect? She said. You could not have told a man who was himself indifferent to you that you loved him.
No, of course not. I never said a single word, but he knew it. No, there are such things as looks and ways of behaving. If I live to be 100, I shall never forget it.
What does it matter? I don't understand. The question is, do you love him now or not? Said Varenka, calling everything by its plain name.
I hate him, and I cannot forgive myself.
But what does it matter?
The shame, the humiliation.
Dear me, if everyone were as sensitive as you are, said Varenka.
There is no girl who has not gone through the same sort of thing, and it is all so unimportant." "Then what is important?" asked Kitty, looking into her face with surprised curiosity.
Many things are important," replied Varenka, not knowing what to say, but at that moment they heard the princess's voice from the window. "Kitty, it is getting chilly. Either take a shawl or come in."
"Yes, I really must be going," said Varenka, rising. "I have to look at Madame Berthe. She asked me to."
Kitty held her hand, and with passionate curiosity and entreaty questioned Varenka with her eyes.
What is more important? What gives you peace? You know, tell me."
But Varenka did not even understand what Kitty's eyes were asking. She only knew that she had to call on Madame Berthe and get home in time for Mamma's midnight tea. She went in, collected her music, and having said good night to everybody, prepared to go. "Allow me to see you home," said the colonel. "Yes, how can you go home alone at this time of night?" agreed the princess. "I will, at any rate, send Parasha with you." Kitty noticed that Varenka had difficulty in suppressing a smile at the idea that she needed anyone to see her home. "Oh no, I always go out alone and nothing ever happens to me," she said, taking up her hat, and kissing Kitty again, but without telling her what was most important. She went out with vigorous steps with her music under her arm, and disappeared in the semi-darkness of the summer night, carrying with her the secret of what was important, and to what she owed her an enviable tranquility and dignity. That is some doomed YURI! That's really, truly some doomed YURI right there. Period. How much... I'll read one more chapter. Kitty also became acquainted with Madame Stahl, and this acquaintanceship, together with Varenka's friendship, not only had a great influence on Kitty, but comforted her in her sorrow. What comforted her was that a perfectly new world was revealed to her, a world that had nothing in common with her past, an exalted, admirable world, from the heights of which it was possible to regard that past calmly. It was revealed to her that besides that instinctive life she had lived hitherto, there was also a spiritual life. That life was revealed by religion, but a religion that had nothing in common with that which Kitty had known since her childhood, and which found an expression in Mass in Vespers at the private chapel of the widow's almshouse, where one could meet one's friends, and in learning Slavonic texts by heart with a priest. This was a lofty mystical religion connected with a series of beautiful thoughts and feelings, which it was not only possible to believe because one was told to, but even to love. Kitty did not learn all this from words. Madame Stahl spoke with her as a dear child who gives one pleasure by reminding one of one's own past, and only once mentioned that love and faith alone can bring relief in all human sorrows, and that no sorrows are too trivial for Christ's compassion. Then she immediately changed the subject, but in Madame Stahl's every movement, every word, every heavenly look, as Kitty called it, and especially in the whole story of her life, which Kitty learnt from Varenka, she discovered what was important and what she had not known before. But however lofty may have been Madame Stahl's character, however touching her story, and however elevated and tender her words, Kitty could not help noticing some perplexing traits in her. She noticed that Madame Stahl, when inquiring about Kitty's relatives, smiled contemptuously, which did not accord with Christian kindness, and once, when Kitty met a Roman Catholic priest at the house, she observed that Madame Stahl carefully hid her face behind the lampshade and smiled in a peculiar manner. Trifling as these things were, they disturbed Kitty, and she felt doubts about Madame Stahl. But Varenka, lonely without relatives or friends, with her sad disillusionment, wishing for nothing and regretting nothing, personified that perfection of which Kitty only allowed herself to dream. And Varenka she saw that it was only necessary to forget oneself and to love others in order to be at peace, happy, and lovely. And such a person Kitty wished to be. Having now clearly understood what was most important, Kitty was not content merely to delight in it, but immediately with her whole soul devoted herself to this newly revealed life. She formed a plan for her future life based on what Varenka told her about the work of Madame Stahl and of others whom she named. Like Madame Stahl's niece, Aline, of whom Varenka told her a great deal, Kitty determined, wherever she lived, to seek out the unfortunate, help them as much as she could, distribute gospels, and read the gospel to the sick, to criminals, and to the dying. The idea of reading the gospels to criminals, as Aline did, charmed Kitty particularly, but all these were secret dreams, which she did not speak either to her mother or to Varenka. However, while waiting for the time when she could put her plans into operation on a larger scale, Kitty, imitating Varenka, here at the watering place where there were so many sick and unhappy people, easily found opportunities to apply her new rules. At first, the princess only noticed that Kitty was strongly influenced by her infatuation, as she called it, for Madame Stahl, and especially for Varenka. She noticed that Kitty not only imitated Varenka's activities, but involuntarily copied her manner of walking, speaking, and blinking her eyes. But after... That's crazy! She is down bad. She is really down bad. Honestly, that's how my first lesbian situationship went. Like, way back when I was in the trenches. But afterwards, the princess also noticed that apart from this infatuation, a serious spiritual change was taking place in her daughter. She saw that in the evening Kitty read the Gospels in French, given to her by Madame Stahl, which she had not done before, that she avoided her society acquaintances and made up to the invalids who were under Varenka's protection, and especially to the family of Petrov, a poor sick artist. Kitty evidently prided herself on fulfilling the duties of a sister of mercy in that family. This was all very well, and the princess had nothing against it, especially as Petrov's wife was quite a well-bred woman, and the German princess, having noticed Kitty's activities, praised her, calling her a ministering angel. It would have been quite right had it not been overdone, but the princess saw that her daughter was getting out of balance and spoke to her about it. Il ne faut jamais rien outré, she said to her one day. But her daughter did not reply, which translates to, you should never overdo anything. But her daughter did not reply. She only felt in her soul that one could not speak of overdoing Christianity. How was it possible to exaggerate when following the teaching which bids us to turn the other cheek, when we are stuck and give our coat to our cloak is taken? But as the princess disliked this excess, and disliked it all the more because she felt that Kitty did not wish to open her whole heart to her, and Kitty really did hide her new views and feelings from her mother, she kept them secret, not from want of respect and love, but just because her mother was her mother. She would have revealed them to anyone sooner than to her. It seems a long time since Anna Pavlovna was here, said the princess, once speaking of Miss Petrova. I invited her, and she did not seem pleased.
I did not notice anything, Mamma, said Kitty, flushing up.
It is long since you went to see them.
We are all arranging to go to a drive up to the mountains tomorrow, replied Kitty.
Well, go if you like, said the princess, looking intently into her daughter's confused face and trying to guess the cause of her confusion. That same day, Varenka came to dinner, and he said that Anna Pavlovna had changed her mind about going to the mountains tomorrow. The princess noticed that Kitty blushed again. Kitty, have you not some unpleasantness with the Petrovs? Said the princess. The princess asked when they were again alone together. Why has she stopped sending the children here and coming herself? Kitty replied that nothing had passed between them, and she did not understand why Anna Pavlovna seemed dissatisfied with her. Kitty spoke the truth. She did not know why Anna Pavlovna had changed toward her, but she guessed it. She guessed it to be something she could not tell her mother and did not even say to herself. It was one of those things which one knows and yet cannot say even to oneself. So dreadful and shameful would it be to make a mistake. Again and again she went over in memory all the relations she had with that family. She remembered the naive pleasure expressed in Anna Pavlovna's round, good-natured face whenever they met, remembered their secret consultations about the patient and their plots to draw him away from his work, which the doctor had forbidden, and to take him for walks, and the attachment to her felt by the youngest boy, who called her "my Kitty," and did not want to go to bed without her. How good it had all been! Then she recalled Petrov's thin, emaciated figure in his brown coat, with his long neck, his thin curly hair, his Why is this, describing, my habituationship? Again. Thin, emaciated figure with long neck, thin curly hair, and inquiring blue eyes, which had first seemed to her terrible, and his sickly efforts to appear vigorous and animated in her presence. She remembered her first efforts to conquer the repulsion she felt for him. As for all his consumptives, and her efforts to find something to say to him, she remembered the timid look, full of emotion, which he gazed at her, and the strange feeling of compassion and awkwardness, followed by a consciousness of her own benevolence, that she had experienced. How good it had all been! But all that had been at first. Now for some days past all had suddenly been spoiled. Anna Pavlovna now met Kitty with affected amiability, and constantly watched her husband and her. Could his touching pleasure when she drew near be the cause of Anna Pavlovna's coldness? Yes, she remembered. There was something unnatural in Anna Pavlovna, quite unlike her usual kindness, when the day before yesterday she said crossly, "There, he has been waiting for you, and would not drink his coffee without you, though perhaps he was growing dreadfully weak. Yes, and perhaps giving him his plaid may have also been unpleasant to her. It was such a simple thing, but he took it so awkwardly and thanked me so much that I myself felt awkward. And then that portrait of me, which he did so well, and above all that look, confused and tender." Oh, wait, that's Kitty saying all of that, bro, whatever. Kitty said to herself, quite horrified, and then,
"No, it is impossible. It must not be. He is so pathetic."
Period.